I've been promising you guys I'm gonna do a top 5, and I'm gonna do my top 5. What's up, everybody? Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world, here with the top 5 up-and-coming comics in the Las Vegas area. Here's the deal, you guys. Sometimes people ask me why I would do this. We all know people will put out lists of the top 10 comics on different platforms, and you're looking at them like, I don't even know who these people are. So while some people may not agree with some of my picks, some people might feel like they should have been on the list. Those people I don't really pay attention to, because anytime I see somebody do that, they're not really getting up. It's like, well, I don't see you anywhere, so I don't really know why I would put you on the list, because I saw you once 2 years ago, or maybe you hung out with me on a particular occasion. That's not going to get you on the list. You really just got to put in the work, and I got to see you around, and I got to know what it is you're doing and stand behind it on some level. And if you look at my list from before, the 2 other lists that I've done, Carlos Anthony, Penny Prince, Kitty Pineapple, all of them are killing it. So while you may not understand why I pick certain people, or you may feel like you should have been on the list, the fact of the matter is I do choose people that are actually out working on the scene. So anyway, let's get to it. If anybody has any questions, please direct them to my complaints department, which is non-existent. And this is in no particular order, so don't get like, this was the #1 comic, this was the #5 comic. It's not really like that. Let's not make it that deep, you guys. So, the first comic I'm going to mention should not be a surprise to anybody. I've mentioned him a few times on the podcast before. Casper the Comic. Casper the Comic is somebody I really like a lot. He has a lot of energy. He's very active on social media. He's not afraid to post clips of what he's doing. He actually promotes his stuff. I really like Casper, not only for the reasons that I just mentioned, but also because Casper is very willing to work on his bits and to grow as a comedian. And he's done well every time I've recommended him for something. The other night, I took Casper with me to a country club, and they were being country club polite with him. And Casper is used to getting bigger responses, used to getting longer laughs. And, you know, he hadn't quite figured out, because he is newer, he hadn't quite figured out the country club vibe and how to work with or around those people. And when I say around, I mean sometimes you have to find a workaround for certain crowds. And so Casper wasn't really ready for that, but he stayed on course. He continued to do his material. He really did do well for what he was up against, because believe me, the first time I ever did a country club, I bombed. And he did not experience that. You know, he did do well, but of course it was a learning curve for him, which is part of the reason that I brought him out, was because I wanted him to be able to see the way that this different situation could work out, because he does really well in clubs, he does really well in bars, but I thought this situation would be an opportunity for me to not only hook him up with a little bit of work, but also give him a little bit of a different experience and help him to grow as a comedian. He stayed in the pocket the whole time. He did exactly what I needed him to do. He followed the rules. And I just really do see a lot of potential in Casper. I know that he has a history in bands and music, and so there's that as well that I think helps him out with stage presence. And so Casper is definitely one of my top 5 up-and-coming comics from the Las Vegas area. The next one, Barry Corcoran. I like Barry Corcoran a lot because he's the complete opposite of what you think when you think of a Las Vegas comedian. For those of you who aren't familiar with Barry Corcoran, he's a lot more on the innocent side, and where people expect Vegas comedians to be wild and crazy, he's kind of nerdy, and he's not a party guy, and he does jokes about kind of innocent type jokes, but they're still really funny and they're really good. And I like his nervous energy. I just like what Barry brings, because if you talk to Barry off stage, he's very much the guy that he is on stage. Of course, like everybody else, it's amped up a little bit. You know, he's just a little bit more awkward on stage or whatever, but he's that guy when you talk to him person to person. So I really like Barry Corcoran a lot, and I'm anxious to see what he grows into. And I would never tell another comic what to do, but I hope he doesn't deviate too far or try to like be something different than what he is, because I think what he is and what he does is going to fit in perfectly with the way that Vegas is changing. Because people come here and they want variety, whether they realize it or not. You know, this is the thing with Vegas. And if you're on this scene, you know, and people can say different things about me, but I am on this scene and I do really well everywhere I go. And so it's like, you can't really say I don't know what I'm talking about. When I tell you the way that Vegas is changing, it doesn't come from me just wanting this to be the way that it is. Actually, I'm just good at rolling with changes. But when I say these kinds of things, I do notice that with Vegas, it's like there are people who want something a little bit different. There are some people that want the traditional Vegas as well still, and that's always going to be there, and that's always going to be a thing, and that's always going to be welcome. But the landscape here, as far as comedy goes, is changing, and I really think that Barry Corcoran is a great addition to the Vegas scene, and I think if he decides to stick with it and decides to continue with what he's doing, I think Barry Corcoran is going to be killing it soon. And he's already doing well. I don't mean like killing it like he's not doing well now. I mean killing it as far as getting a lot more work and being able to get a lot more gigs here in Las Vegas, because like I said, this is an up and coming list, so not all of these people are working as much as some people would want them to be in order to be on a top 5 list. Some people might be like, well, I don't really see them working. Well, shut up. That's because most of the people that are working in Vegas are tired and lame, and I don't mind saying that. Anyway, Jay Monet, that would be the next comic that I'm putting on my top 5 up-and-coming comics here in Las Vegas. Jay Monet came here from Philadelphia. She hit the ground running. She's been here for, I think, about 6 months now, and she's just really killing it. Last night, she headlined Backstop. She was on with Diaz Mackey and Steve Henry, a couple other comics. Manfred Hein runs that show out at Backstop. It's Boulder City, which is probably about 30 minutes away from the Las Vegas area, something like that. But it's a really great spot. All of us love doing Backstop, and Jay Monet headlined it, and she's been headlining a lot more stuff. I mean, she's really acclimated well to the Vegas comedy scene. She's a very positive influence, so it's funny that I just got through talking shit right before I mentioned her, but she is very positive. She tries to make sure that everybody knows that they have a place in the Las Vegas scene. She's very quickly made this her home, and I don't see a problem with any of that. You know, there will be people that she hangs out with and talks to that I don't necessarily like. But like I've always said, you don't even have to be a person that I like to be on my top 5 list. So I don't expect the people that are on my top 5 list or the people that I hang out with to have any particular loyalty to me in that particular way, where it's like you can't talk to these people or you do what you do. And Jay Monet is definitely doing a good job of just making herself known on the Las Vegas comedy scene. She's got a lot of energy. She's not afraid to be irreverent. She definitely does go out into the audience, like when she comes out to Ocha Bar, which is our open mic, the Thai Comedy Dojo. She is not afraid to just take the mic and walk out into the audience and do what she has to do to actually get the audience's attention in whatever the situation is, which is another thing about Las Vegas. Like, the style of comedy here in Las Vegas can be a bit unorthodox, but that's just because in a lot of cases we're dealing with audiences and crowds that you really do have to get their attention. So however you figure out getting their attention is, to me, an acceptable way of doing what it is the job is here in Las Vegas. Our comedy is different here in Las Vegas. I will let people know that. You know, people sometimes come here and they're like, well, I don't really like my openers to do crowd work. And it's like, all right, well, then go work somewhere else, because people just kind of do what they do here in Las Vegas. I don't like musical comedy. Well, a lot of the audience here in Las Vegas likes musical comedy, so sorry, Grandpa, but nobody really cares about what you like. The scene isn't going to change because you personally don't like certain things and you're used to things being your way in bumfuck Idaho or wherever it is you come from. If you don't like the way we do comedy here in Las Vegas, here's an idea: don't perform in Las Vegas. We don't need you. We have plenty of talent, trust me. The next comedian that I'm going to mention, real comedian Wayne. I don't know what he goes by. You know what? I'm going to be honest. I really like Wayne a lot. He's on my top 5 list, but if I had any advice at all for Wayne, it would be get your social media and your marketing in order, because nobody knows what to call you when they're bringing you to stage. Nobody knows how to address you. Nobody knows how to really put you on a flyer. And I hit him up about like his social media, and I was like, send me your socials, because I didn't want to tell him he was on the list, but I was trying to get everybody's stuff in order for social media. For everybody else, it's kind of easy. For Wayne, it's really not that easy. And so I asked him for that specifically, and he just didn't have it. And it's like, get your marketing in order, Wayne, because I think you're funny. He won at Ocha Bar, the set of the night, not too long ago. And I'll be honest, there were some comics that were like, how did Wayne end up winning at Ocha? And the thing was, he just had a really great set. He really did kill it that night. And I definitely do see something in Wayne. He's also just recently started doing his own 2-hour blocks, I believe it is, at Dick's Last Resort, which is fun themed, like where they talk shit type of restaurant. On Fremont is the location he's at. There's a couple different locations. He's at the Fremont location, and I think he's really going to grow from that. You know, that's mainly him doing crowd work and messing with the patrons there. There are certain rules, you know, where he can't get dirty or anything. He's got to be on the clean side, but I just think he's going to grow exponentially from that experience. And I know that I seemed a little frustrating with the marketing part, but that's something I'm going to talk about on Comedy Tip Tuesday coming up, is like not enough comics have their digital marketing in order. It's like, if I hit you up and I ask you to send me your socials, send me links. Don't send me screenshots of what your socials are. Don't send me just your name on social media. Send me actual links. We live in a digital world. Vegas is set up perfectly for digital marketing. There's no city that can benefit more from everybody being on the digital marketing train. And so, yeah, I'm frustrated with that part about Wayne right now. And really, I don't care, because it only affects my life so much, and I'm only going to let anything affect my life so much. But don't make it hard for people to help you out. Don't make it hard for people to advertise you. Don't make it hard for people to give you shout outs. Different people have had different issues on social media as far as being hacked and stuff like that. So you really have to let people know exactly which one you are in some cases when that has been the situation with you. So it's only for your own good that I would tell you that that is like a very important thing. And Wayne is also active on TikTok. So is Casper. Like, that's the other thing. Monet actually does content. Barry Corcoran does not do content yet, but I'm really hoping that he starts to push that a bit more, because I hate to tell you guys, but when it comes to comedy, the war is going to be won by internet. That's what's going to happen, you know. Everybody's got to step it up in the digital field, because, yeah, your stand-up may be great, but if nobody's heard about you and everybody else is kicking your ass in the digital marketing space, then you might as well not even be doing it at a certain point, because it's just not really going to play out that way. Like, I do stay on my socials. People know that. My strongest platform, well, YouTube is quickly becoming my strongest platform, but my strongest platform up until this point has been Facebook. Facebook has been kind of limiting our speech for quite a while now, so I'm moving away from Facebook, even though I'll never completely let it go, obviously. But at the same time, that would be a bit of advice for you guys on the Las Vegas scene. Kitty Pineapple, who I mentioned a few minutes ago, who was on my top 5 list, I believe the last top 5 list I had, has just hit close to 30,000 now on TikTok, and she's been killing it. Just killing it, killing it, killing it. People are loving her. People are booking her different places. That's through digital. That is through her having really pushed herself on social media. Her Instagram is doing great. And that's what a lot more people on the Vegas scene, if I can stress anything to you, digital marketing, definitely get on it and start working on that. The last name on this list is going to be a surprise to some people, because he has been here for quite a while. Technically, he was a part of the start of this scene. A lot of people have hated on him for a long time, and I'm going to just tell you guys, Trez Mala. Trez Mala, to me, is one of the best comics on the Las Vegas comedy scene. And I was hesitant to put him on the top 5 up and coming because he has been here for so long. But at the same time, I feel like because of the way that people here were trying to be politically correct and certain people were trying to run the scene that aren't really a part of the scene anymore, and still there's certain people that try to get in people like Trez's way because they don't necessarily agree with his politics. And Trez does talk about conspiracy theories and he has no problem expressing that on social media, and some people don't necessarily like that. When it came to COVID, he definitely was anti-vax, as some people would say it. Well, I don't really know if anti-vax people were anti-vax as much as they just weren't getting the vax. I didn't know a lot of people that were really telling people not to get it. They were just saying they weren't getting it and don't force them. But this isn't about his politics, is my point, that really nobody should be worried about that. When it comes to comedy, are people funny? Are people good writers? Are they doing good stuff? Trez also hosts a new show at Chancla's Cantina, and they just opened up a new location, which I'll be there a lot more coming up. I mean, like, I've got to go on the road a bit. I'm in Sarasota, Florida, Thursday to Sunday. Then after that, the following week, I'm in Sacramento at Laughs Unlimited. And so I'm not going to be able to be around for the next couple of weeks, but when I am in town, I definitely will be at the new Chancla's Cantina, which is on East Fremont Street. So not Fremont Street, the part you think about as far as touristy, but going to the other side, east. And Trez is now hosting that show. And Trez, I've been telling him this for years now, ever since I got here. I got here, what, like 3-4 years ago. I've been telling him I really like the way he writes. Like, he's one of the few people that I know that'll do brand new material, and it'll sound like he's been doing it for weeks or months, because I don't know if he just practices at home. I remember I asked him, but I can't remember what his answer was. I don't remember if he just practices it at home, or if it's just like, you know, from him having a really good memory and he's just really good at making adjustments or putting out new material or memorizing stuff. Whatever it is, his stuff always sounds like he's been doing it for a while, even when it's brand new. And yeah, there are the people that'll talk about his politics or certain things he says online. But for me, I'm so tired of people with that, because if it's funny, it's funny. If when they get on stage, it's good, that's all you should really worry about. All this stuff about, like, you know, I don't like this person on social media, I don't agree with what they said about this. It's like, are they good? Are they original? Are they working on their own stuff? Because being hacky is not a respectable trait in comedy. That's just not. And you can say, like, it goes over well with the audience, is cool. And I'm not going to say that people shouldn't work, but at the same time, I'm not going to act like I respect you as a comedian. So while a lot of people that would maybe not necessarily like Trez or not think that he should get stage time because they don't agree with certain things he said, or they think certain things are socially irresponsible, to me that has nothing to do with it. Can Trez do well in a crowd? Yes. Can Trez make an audience laugh? Yes. It's almost like he's the opposite of a Barry Corcoran for me in certain ways. Just like where with Barry Corcoran, people might like him because he's different in a very wholesome way. People might like Trez because he's very different in an out there way. And you don't have to agree with everything somebody says in order to laugh at their stand-up. Like, that's what a lot of people don't get, even when it comes to some of the big comics like Chappelle and Bill Burr. It's not always that the audience agrees with what they're saying, and it's not a pep rally type situation. In a lot of cases, it's just like they have found a funny way to say things that in some cases you don't necessarily agree with or don't necessarily resonate with you. But they've just found a funny way to go ahead and put that out there. And so people go for it. And so when it comes to Trez Mala, like I said, I was going back and forth. Like, should I put him on the list? Because he's been around for a while, but he's actually getting a chance to get some shine. And not only is the comedy landscape changing in that way, but also the political landscape is changing, where people are getting tired of being told what to think and what to do. And in some cases, people are just like, yeah, even if I don't want to agree with it, maybe I want to hear it. Maybe there's some sort of value in hearing something that I don't agree with and getting a laugh off of it. And yeah, on Facebook, I totally wouldn't agree with this guy. But when he's on stage, and I don't mean me, I'm talking about the audience member, because technically me and Trez agree on a lot of things. Not everything, but there's nobody that I agree with on everything. And there's nobody that I've met that has has any kind of sense of individuality that agrees with everything I say. Like, you know, a lot of my friends, there's certain things that I say where they're like, yeah, I don't agree with that, but it's not something we argue about. It's not something to get into it about, especially when we're talking about comedy. Like, we deal with each other in a lot of cases because we're comics, because we respect each other comedically, because we actually know that the other does well on stage, and that's kind of all we need from each other in a lot of these cases. So Tres Mala definitely is a comic to watch on the Las Vegas scene. Like I said, a lot of people have been trying to not let people see his stuff, but to me, that's all going to be changing very soon, and Tres Mala is definitely one of the comedians to watch. So there you have it, you guys. Those are my top 5 in the Las Vegas comedy scene. I don't know how much of this I'm going to edit out just so that we get to it as quickly as possible, but just so everybody knows, Casper the Comic, Barry Corcoran, Jay Monet, Wayne the comedian, real comedian Wayne, I don't fucking know, and Tres Mala. Those are my top 5. That's it. I stand behind all of them. Talk all the mess you want to talk. Unbothered might be coming out tomorrow, might not. I don't know. It's a holiday week. You know, I ate too much yesterday. So it is what it is. That's your top 5. Take it or leave it. Thank you, Las Vegas. Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.